Just 53 days more for elections, activists being detained, and much controversy behind the electricity tariff increase, tax increase rather. Now, much going on happening in the country as the election comes closer. And with all of that, it is very important that you stay updated with the latest. Welcome to Lunchtime News on TV1, bringing you the news from the news desk. I am Sandro Satyajit. First, your headlines.
Opposition leader says the cabinet violated the constitution, cites a letter sent by Home Affairs Secretary.
දැන් හපුහින්න මහත්තයාට කොමිෂන් සභාව හමු එන්නේ කිව්වහම මේ රටේ ලොකුම දෙන්න කෝල් කරලා කියලා තියෙනවා යන්න එපයි කියලා. ඔයා කතා කරන විදිය තේරෙනවා. මේ බොරු කතා කියන්න එපා.
Salaries of public sector executive grade officers are to be delayed by a few days. Cabinet spokesperson says Energy Minister has not received POCSL consent on electricity tariff hike. Human rights groups want an end to the arbitrary detention of Vasantha Mudalige. Motorcycle gunmen shoot dead one man in Paliagoda.
Will elections be held before the 10th of March 2023? 53 days more. Beginning with the election stories of the day, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Dinesh Gunawardena told Parliament on Tuesday that the Cabinet of Ministers did not reach any decision concerning the acceptance of cash bonds for the upcoming local government election. However, earlier, Home Affairs Secretary Neil Bandara Hapuhine issued a letter directing district secretaries and returning officers to refrain from accepting bonds for the local government election. Now, he later withdrew that letter, citing a technicality.
මේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩල නියෝජනය කරන ජනාධිපති නීතිඥවරුනි කවුද අලි සබ්රි මහත්මයා ඊපස්සේ විජේදාස රාජපක්ෂ මහත්මයා ඊට පස්සේ ජ්‍යෙෂ්ඨ නීතිඥ නිමල් සිරිපාල මහත්මයා.
The cabinet is represented by a number of President's Council, including Dr. Vijayadasa Rajapaksa, Ali Sabri and Nimal Siripala de Silva. Did the Cabinet of Ministers reach any decision to order the Election Commission to delay the election? Was the decision taken to direct the Home Affairs Secretary to issue a letter? The Home Affairs Secretary had issued a letter to the district secretaries, and that is unconstitutional. The election concerns the district returning officers. They are appointed by the Election Commission. How can the Home Affairs Secretary issue an order to the district secretaries to stop the election process and suspect accepting the bonds? Returning officers are accountable to Election Commission. However, Neil Hapuhine is quoted as saying that the letter was issued based on a cabinet decision. So did the cabinet decision to issue the letter ordering the district secretaries to stop accepting nominations and bonds for the election by the Home Affairs Secretary?
මැතිවරණ ක්‍රියාවල අත්හිටුවන්නත් ඒ වගේම අප මුදල් බාර ගැනීම අත්හිටුවීම සඳහා ඔහු දිස්ත්‍රික් ලේකම් තේරීම් බාර නිලධාරීන්ට නියෝග දෙන්න ඕන මැතිවරණ කොමිසම ඔහු වගේ කියන්නේ ඉතින්ද හැබැයි ඒකෙදී නීල් අපුන්න මහත්මයා උපුටා දක්වන ගරු කතානායකතුමනි මේ කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ ගනු ලැබූ තීන්දුවකට අනුරූපීය කියලා. ඒතර කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය තීන්දුවක් ගත්තද රාජ්‍ය පරිපාලන ලේකම්වරයා හරහා දිස්ත්‍රික් ලේකම්වරුන්ට නියෝගයක් නිකුත් කරන්න මැතිවරණේ නාම යෝජනා කැඳවීම අත්හිටුවන්න අප මුදල් බාර ගැනීම අත්හිටුවන්න කියලා.
අනුරදිසානායක මන්ත්‍රීතුමා අසන ප්‍රශ්නේ ඒක cabinet.
The Cabinet of Ministers did not reach any decision concerning the acceptance of cash bonds for the upcoming local government election. This is misleading. We discussed all the issues that affect the country at the Cabinet meeting. And if anyone had implied that such a decision was made by the Cabinet, it is wrong. We never issued any such order regarding this election, even on delaying this election.
ඒ නිසා කවුරු හරි එහෙම කිව්වනම් ඒක වැරදි ප්‍රවෘත්තියක්. ඒ නිසා අපි කිසිම අවස්ථාවක එවැනි නියෝගයක් මේ ඡන්දය ගැන මේ කියන ඡන්දේ නැවැත්වීම ගැන අරගෙන නැහැ.
ඉන්න ලේකම්තුමා දිස්ත්‍රික් ලේකම්වරුන්ට තේරුම් බාර නිලධාරීන්ට
Secretary Hapuhinna has sent this letter to the district secretaries based on a decision taken by the Cabinet of Ministers. This was not a personal decision made by him. As the Home Affairs Secretary, he has sent this letter based on a decision taken by the Cabinet. Did the Cabinet reach any decision? Give us a direct answer.
රජයේ නිලධාරියෙක් හැටියට රාජ්‍ය පරිපාලන අමාත්‍යංශයේ ලේකම්වරයා හැටියට එතුමා යවනවා කැබිනට් එක ගත්තු තීන්දුවක් හැටියට අපි අහන්න කැමති කැබිනට් එක එහෙම තීන්දුවක් ගත්තද ඍජුව උත්තරයක් දෙන්න ඒකනේ නැහැ කිව්වේ ඍජුව උත්තරයක් දෙන්න අගමැතිතුමා
I responded to the matter. They asked the same immediately after I responded to it. The opposition leader is not paying attention in parliament.
සවන් දෙන්නේ නැහැ විපක්ෂ නායකතුමා සවන් දෙන්නේ නැහැ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට.
රට පිළිබඳ විශාල තීන්දුව ගන්න කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය. ඒ තීන්දුව අදාළ අමාත්‍යවරුන්ට අදාළ ලේකම්වරුන්ට ලබා දෙනු ලබන්නේ කවුද? කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ ලේකම්වරයා. ඔහු විසින් දෙන සහතිකය තමයි කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලයේ තීන්දුව බවට පත් වෙන්නේ. එහෙම නැත්නම් දිනේෂ් ගුණවර්ධන ගරු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා
The Cabinet reaches decisions on the country. These decisions are conveyed to the Ministry and the Secretary by the Cabinet Secretary. His assurance is the Cabinet decision and not the decision taken by the Cabinet Minister. The decisions comes to effect only after the Cabinet Secretary sends it to the respective officers. What is the state of the country when decisions that were not reached by the Cabinet are being sent out as Cabinet decisions by that officer? Then we do not need a Cabinet of Ministers. If the Cabinet Secretary decides on what needs to be sent, this is a serious issue. This not only concerns the elections. What would happen if the Cabinet Secretary sends another letter on a decision regarding a matter that was not even discussed by the Cabinet? A Cabinet decision becomes official only when it is certified by the Cabinet Secretary. Based on the information that I have, the President and Vajra Abewardena had discussed the matter and given the directive to the Cabinet Secretary. Where is the government? Not in the government, but with Ranil Wickremesinghe and Vajra Abewardena.
මණ්ඩලේ. ඒ නිසා ගරු කතානායකතුන් දැනගන්න ඕන මා හිතනවා. කැබිනට් ලේකම්වරයා මෙවැනි තීන්දුවක් මේ විදිහට ගණී කියලා අපිට තියෙන අත්දැකීම් මොන උනන් හිතන්නේ නැහැ. මට තිබෙන තොරතුරු අනුව ජනාධිපතිවරයාත් වජිරා බේවර්ධනත් එකට එකතු වී කතා කොට කැබිනට් ලේකම්වරයාට මේ නියෝගය ලබන්න කියලා නියෝග දී තිබෙනවා. එහෙමනම් ගරු කතානායකතුන් ආණ්ඩුව දෙන්නේ කොහෙද? කැබිනට් මණ්ඩලය තුල නෙවෙයි. ආණ්ඩුව තියෙන රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ සහ වජිරා බේවර්ධන අතර. අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා ඉස්සේ එසවීමෙන් ඒක අනුමත කරලා තිබෙනවා.
මම අහන්න කැමති කැබිනට් එකේ ලේකම්වරයා ඒ වගේම අමාත්‍යංශයේ හපුහින්න ලේකම්වරයා එයා ඉන්නේ ජනාධිපතිටයි අගමැතිටයි.
I would like to know if the Cabinet Secretary and the Home Affairs Secretary are superior than the President and the Prime Minister. Is there another super cabinet? What happened is that some in Cabinet are not even aware of this. This decision was taken in secret. As it was a Cabinet decision, Hapuhinna was forced to send it to the district secretaries.
ප්‍රසන්න රණතුංග මැතිතුමාත් දැනුවත්ව හිටියද කියලා. උත්තර දෙන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. මම දන්නවා හෘද සාක්ෂියට අනුව මට තියෙන හැඟීමක් ඔහු දන්නෙත් නැහැ. ඇයි? මේක හොරාට අටවපු තීන්දුවක් ඒ තීන්දුව අනිවාර්යෙන්ම හපුින්නට සිද්ධ වුණා කැබිනට් තීන්දුවක් නිසා යවන්න ජීඑලට.
Meanwhile, Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers has granted approval to pay the salaries of non-executive state sector employees on time and to delay the salaries of executive grade staff by a few days. Now, this was considering the current financial situation of the government. The Department of Government Information, in a statement, said that the 2023 revenue proposals have been implemented, and because revenue generation would take some time, the government has decided to manage its expenses from January 2023, and thus the Cabinet has approved to delay the salaries of executive grade staff by a few days. Now, Sri Lanka's Cabinet of Ministers has also decided to cut the recurrent budget expenditure by 6%. Cabinet approval was also given to provide financial aid to low-income earning families for another 5 months. A delegation of investors from the United Arab Emirates, led by His Royal Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Maktoum bin Juma Al Maktoum, visited Port City, Colombo during the weekend. Discussion And that story now in detail. Discussions were held between the members of the delegation, representatives from the Colombo Port City Economic Commission, the CPC-EC, and Port City Colombo, the PCC, with a view to attract foreign direct investments to the project. Moving on to some other stories in detail. One man was shot dead in Paliagoda this morning. A Crime Watch has the details.
Crime Watch.
A 32-year-old man was shot by unidentified gunmen who arrived on a motorcycle inside his wife's house early on Tuesday morning. The gunmen fled the scene after opening fire at the victim. Police said that he was shot 3 times to the chest by a gunman who used a pistol. Sri Lanka police said that the 32-year-old man was admitted to the Colombo National Hospital where he succumbed to his injuries. Sri Lanka police added that the deceased had several pending cases in court in relation to several homicides.
Crime Watch.
The security officer of a sports complex of a popular school in Kandy had died under suspicious circumstances. Sri Lanka police said that the body of the male was found at the observation pavilion of the school sports complex. Sri Lanka police said that the victim's legs were found tied together, adding that the deceased was identified as a 26-year-old from Bandaragama.
Crime Watch.
Moving on to other news in detail, 7 human rights groups have called for the immediate release of Vasantha Mudalige. 7 human rights organizations said on Monday that the Sri Lankan government should immediately end the arbitrary detention of Vasantha Mudalige, a student activist who was arrested on the 18th of August 2022. This statement was issued by Amnesty International, Asia Forum for Human Rights and Development, Forum Asia, Civicus, Frontline Defenders, Human Rights Watch, International Working Group on Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka Campaign for Peace and Justice. The statement said that since the 21st of August, Vasantha Mudalige, at 29 years old, has been held on orders signed by President Ranil Wickremesinghe under the Prevention of Terrorism Act, a draconian law that the government has long promised to repeal. Many of those detained have since been released on bail, and the human rights groups said, however, the authorities have used extraordinary powers under the PTA to keep Mudalige in detention, despite having produced no evidence in any involvement in, quote, terrorism, unquote. According to the Department of Agriculture, 8 to 10% of the cultivations this season have been affected by the disease that turns rice plants to yellow.
It is reported that a plethora of paddylands have been affected by the disease that turns rice plants to yellow. These are the rice cultivations in the Thunpango village in Kandakatia, Badulla. These farmers were deprived of a rich harvest during the previous seasons due to the fuel and fertilizer crisis. This season, the farmers cultivated 126 acres with high hopes. However, the farmers have been left helpless by the disease that turns rice plants to yellow. Farmers demand attention to be drawn towards this issue and immediate solutions to be provided.
Director General of Agriculture Malati Parasuraman says that field samples will be obtained from all areas where rice plants are turning yellow, and these samples will be directed for laboratory tests that will be completed this week. The Director General highlights nutrition deficiency as the main cause for rice plants to turn yellow. Sri Lanka's Agriculture Ministry said the addition of muriate of potash, or MOP, is the only identified solution to the nutrition deficiency suffered by rice plants. A special discussion is to take place on the 23rd of January.
Many student activists have been seen to be detained in the past many months in Sri Lanka. Now, the Students' Union of the Peradeniya University says that the government is cracking down on protests because they cannot solve the problems of the people.
වසන්ත සහෝදරයා දවස් 160කට වඩා මේ වෙනකොට රඳවාගෙන
Vasanta has been held now for more than 160 days. Many youth activists, including the presidents of the students' councils of the universities of Peradeniya and Kalaniya, are detained as of now. Ranil Rajapaksa cannot give solutions to the people. This is why Ranil Wickremesinghe is attempting to crack down on the leaders of the Aragalaya. We would like to tell Ranil Rajapaksa, please do not try to drive us away from our movement by suspending us, cracking down on us, by chasing us from the university. Because this is an Aragalaya that we will win.
අපිව හිරේ දාලා අපිට සස්පෙන්ඩ් කරලා විශ්වවිද්‍යාලයෙන් අපි වෙලවලා මෙහෙම මර්ධනය කළා මේ සටන නවත්තන්න අපිව මේකෙන් අයින් කරලා දාන්න උත්සාහ කරන්න එපා මොකද අපි මේක ජයග්‍රහණය කරන අරගලයක්
මේ ගොවිතැනට කරපු හානිය තමා මේ රසායනික පොහොර ආනයනය නොකිරීම තුලින් ඒකට උපදෙස් දුන්නේ කවුද?
By not importing chemical fertilizer, farmers have been adversely affected. Who gave advice on this? Doctors and monks did. They are the ones who advised on these decisions during Gotabaya Rajapaksa's reign. The people of this country should go to courts because these are economic crises and send them to where they belong. They are not people who must stay outside. They must be in jail, but they are out and trying to control a country.
A tragic motor accident was reported from Valigama. This resulted in the death of a woman walking on the road and also sent her son to the hospital. The cause for the accident was a scuffle inside a bus.
A brawl had broken out inside a bus flying from Mathura to Colombo at around 8:30 last night. 4 passengers were involved in the scuffle with the conductor, and they have eventually assaulted the driver of the moving bus. The driver had lost control of the bus and the moving vehicle collided with a woman and her son who were walking on the road. The woman died on the spot and her son was admitted to the hospital. Sri Lanka police said the 3 people involved in the incident were arrested.
Moving on to more political news, the signing of nomination papers of the JVP in relation to the upcoming local government election was conducted this morning.
ඇත්තටම පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයක් වුණාට මේක රටේ අනාගතය
Even though it's a local government election, this is going to decide the future of the country. So as the NPP, we will use our maximums to enter win this election.
මේ මැතිවරණය ජයග්‍රහණය කරන්න අපි වෙහෙසෙනවා.
රට තුළ විශාල ජනතාවගේ පිබිදීමක් තියෙනවා. හැමතැනම කතා කරමින් ඉන්නවා මේවර අපි කවුරුත් ජාතික ජන බලවේගයත් එක්ක එකතු වෙන්න ඕන කියලා නිසා මේ පළාත් පාලන මැතිවරණයේ නියත ජයග්‍රහණය ජාතික ජන බලවේගයේ සතු වෙනවා කියන එක පිළිබඳව අපිට කිසිම සැකයක් නැහැ. මොකද පළවෙනි වටේම දැන් ආණ්ඩුව පෙරදිලා තියෙනවා.
There's a major rise in the people of this country. Discussions are happening everywhere that the NPP should also join. So we have no doubt that the NPP will win this election because the government has already lost the initial round. During the past few days, the government and the president tried to avoid the election, but none of those efforts were successful, which is a win for the people. Don't take this as a simple election, but as an election which is going to bring change.
Moving on to news overseas, in Ukraine, pressure is mounting on Germany as Ukraine urges fast arms supplies. Western and Ukrainian officials are piling pressure on Germany to approve the transfer of heavy battle tanks to Ukraine, with United Kingdom Defence Minister Ben Wallace saying the move could unlock support from other nations ahead of a United States-hosted meeting later this week to discuss further military aid to Kyiv. The appeal on Monday came as Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky also insisted on the need for faster weapons deliveries in the wake of a Russian missile attack that killed at least 40 people in an apartment block in the eastern city of Dnipro. Ukraine has so far primarily relied on a Soviet-era T-72 tank variants, and defense analysts say Western-made battle tanks would provide Ukrainian forces with better protection and more accurate firepower. But some of Kyiv's allies have so far resisted sending heavier weaponry to Ukraine amid concerns such moves could drag them more directly into the war with Russia. Germany has said that its Leopard 2 tanks, regarded as among the West's best, should only be supplied to Ukraine if there is agreement among Kyiv's main allies. Visit our social media pages and await the brief at 30 throughout the evening for more news. Bringing you the news from the news desk. This is Sandro Sathajit signing off. Take care.
ඇත්ත කෙටියෙන් දත්ත වැඩියෙන් සයිබර් අවකාශයේ කළඹන වුවත් සලකුණ